The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs, recognizing first responders and other deserving individuals in our community. Friday mornings at 8:30 on News Talk KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Extermination. A 34-year-old Salt Lake City sex offender is headed to prison for at least 15 years for driving to Logan to have sex with an undercover police officer posing as a teenage girl last fall. Christopher Kent Burden hugged his parents goodbye as deputies escorted him out of the courtroom to begin serving his incarceration. Burden was sentenced Monday afternoon in First District Court. He accepted a plea deal in February, pleading guilty to attempted rape of a child, attempted aggravated sexual abuse of a child, both first-degree felonies, and enticing a minor by internet or text, a second-degree felony. In September 2022, Burden began messaging a Logan City police officer. The undercover officer was using an anonymous chat website that allows for one-on-one chats as well as group chats and had identified themselves as a 13-year-old girl. Burden messaged the officer and began asking about prior sexual experiences and if they could meet in person. Police were able to determine Burden's identity by tracking his phone number and personal information given in his texts. They later learned that he had been previously arrested for enticing a minor during a similar undercover police operation in Farmington. He was convicted of unlawful sexual activity with a teenager and was placed on the sex offender registry. On October 17th, Burden messaged the undercover officer that he had gotten off work and was coming up to see her. He arranged a time and place to meet where police were waiting when he arrived to take him into custody. He was booked into the Cache County Jail and held without bail. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy this evening, then clearing, much colder, down around 15 degrees, and then sunny, mid-30s on Thursday, sunny, mid-30s on Friday. It's been to 43. It's 37 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Bring back the sounds you've been missing. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
The bugs love the good weather. I'm guessing you have a bunch of those creepy crawlers waiting patiently to come into your cozy home. Let Logan Extermination take care of those unwanted pests with a monthly exterior spray. Now for a limited time, they'll spray your home's exterior monthly from April to October for only $65 per month for a 1,500 square foot home. Call Logan Extermination before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. A man has been taken into custody after being identified as a person of interest in a double murder case in Spanish Fork. 26-year-old Tristan Robert Erickson was taken into custody near Kremling, Colorado, after a pursuit on Tuesday, according to Lieutenant Corey Slaymaker of the Spanish Fork Police Department. This came after Erickson's 50-year-old mother and her 58-year-old husband were found deceased at their house in Spanish Fork. Police were called out for a welfare check Tuesday after a co-worker reported the man had not shown up for work in 2 days. Officers responded to the house and eventually got inside through an unlocked window at around 1:45 p.m., and they found the couple's bodies inside. And one man who is missing inside a slot canyon in Kane County has been found dead. Another is still missing. The Kane County Sheriff's Office was initially looking for 3 hikers who were reported overdue after entering Buckskin Gulch on Monday morning. A helicopter crew sent to the canyon was able to spot debris, and they eventually located located one person in the group and extricated them from the canyon. The man was severely cold and was transported to a local hospital. Crews continued to search for the other two men until 4 a.m. Tuesday before breaking. The search later resumed for the men who reportedly had previous experience in Buckskin Gulch. Around 6:40 p.m., the sheriff's office confirmed that one of the missing hikers was found dead. The other was still missing. In addition to this search, the sheriff's office said over the last 48 hours it has been sent to rescue at least 10 other people from the same area, which is near the Wave on the Utah-Arizona border. KBNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Reporting the news that matters to you. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, your number one radio station for news and talk.
If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put-it-up-and-forget-about-it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
He's cared and watched out for you your entire life, even taught you how to catch a fish and swing a bat. But now that he's in his senior years, it's your turn to care for Dad. Giving your aging loved one the attention he or she needs can be challenging, which is why there's Legacy House of Logan. From bathing and dressing to help with medicine, cooking, and housekeeping, Legacy House of Logan is your extra set of hands with an extra gentle touch. On 1400 North in Logan and online at legacylogan.com.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People, hour 2 of today's show, Wednesday, March 15th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well, and we're kicking things off today with a very special guest who we've had on the show before, but in a different capacity, and also talking about things that were, I'll be honest, not quite as big of a deal as what we're going to talk about today, because it is just huge news that you may have seen already. More than, this is going to be more than 20,000 acre feet of water, basically, permanently donated via 5,700 water shares by the LDS Church. The announcement was made via a statement from the church earlier today. It was discussed in many ways, and for listeners who aren't familiar, a really quick breakdown. A water share is a certificate issued by, I have to say this because we have a lot of new people in Cache Valley. A water share is a certificate issued by an irrigation company, and that certificate is basically a proof of water rights, that you have access to this much water. The shares are measured in acre feet, and if you do the calculations on this, 1 acre foot is about 330,000 gallons of water. It's a lot of water. So we're talking a huge amount of water that has been permanently bestowed by this donation from the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to the Great Salt Lake as part of the Save the Great Salt Lake effort. What does that all mean, and how does this work? When shares are donated, either temporarily or permanently, they go into a trust, which is being run by a consortium of groups, a public-private partnership, actually. So, joining us right now to break all of this down and correct anything I just said wrong, Executive Director Director of the Utah Department of Natural Resources and former state lawmaker from here in northern Utah, which comes up later in our conversation, Joel Ferry. And Joel, appreciate taking some time for us today. I'll just jump right to this. The reason I bring up you as a former state lawmaker is you served on a committee within the legislature for a long time, the House Business and Labor Committee and the Legislative Water Development Commission. And you could not have planned an appointment and a new job better with that experience. But what's funny about this is that no one knew this was coming. No one knew we were going to, be facing some of the challenges and making some of the decisions we're having to deal with now. And yet you find yourself, appointed by the governor to this executive director spot with DNR at a time when some legislative commission experience with water and water development it has to be coming in handy, right?
It does. And Jason, yes, thank you for having me on. That experience was invaluable. I was able to serve as the chairman of both those committees. And we have to recognize that water in the state of Utah is really what drives a lot of economic activity.
Sure.
And so it's those diversions of water, whether it's for agriculture or in our homes or in our businesses, that we've got to balance because we're in a closed basin. And that water that we're using is what historically would have gone to Great Salt Lake. And so how do we balance that? And that's what we're working on now, recognizing the need to use it wisely, use it efficiently, but the need to use it. And
Sure.
then the need to balance that with the environment and growing food and everything else that we do. But Jason, we find ourselves in really unique times. Talk about going from one extreme to another.
Sure.
I'll tell you, if I can, really quick, last year, our snowpack water equivalent peaked out at about 11 and a half inches statewide.
Wow.
Today, we just crossed over 23 inches.
Yeah.
We're in record-breaking territory right now. So what a difference a year makes.
Oh, and fingers crossed this holds up. But so far, it's not melting off too fast. I mean, it's pretty warm here in Cache Valley today, but it's not melting off too fast. I mean, this really could. The governor has said many times this won't fix our situation when it comes to the drought at large, water challenges and population growth going forward, or the Great Salt Lake. It won't fix it, but this is this gives us some wiggle room, right? This snowpack.
It does, and absolutely. But the point, I guess, ultimately is, 1 year doesn't fix this, so we've got to continue to focus on how can we be good stewards of this resource.
Sure.
Water in the state of Utah is a public resource. We all have the right, as you explained very well, what a canal share is and what it does. We have the right to use that water. We have these shares or we have water rights. But we need to be mindful that what our actions have impacts on downstream users, including things like Great Salt Lake, which ultimately is at the very end. We're in a closed basin. Great Salt Lake is the last stop
Sure.
for all of this water that's falling.
Sure. That's and this is water has always been. I make this joke a lot on the show, Joel. But growing up at the south end of Cache Valley, I was told since I was like 5 years old, two things guaranteed to start a fight: whiskey and water. Those are
That's right.
And I've heard that my entire life. But it really, this is such a critical resource to those in agriculture. But now we're starting, I think, to realize, which we should have never really forgotten, that, this is a critical resource. This isn't just for those who are making a living growing alfalfa. Without water, our cities don't run. We don't run.
Yeah.
And we very much take it for granted, right?
A lot of times we do. And I think that refocusing our efforts on how valuable this water is to our quality of life, it really kind of refines and brings into focus this donation that the church has made, how important
Sure.
it truly is. We're talking about 20,000 acre feet of water. I think your explanation was great. Another way, if you want to put it in perspective, one football field, so football field where the grass is, that's an acre. If you were to put a foot of water on that football field, that would be 1 acre foot.
Wow.
So times that by 20,000 football fields, 1 foot deep of water. That's how much water annually we're talking about. This is water that's delivered during the summer, so the growing season. And it's water that's deeded, and it's fantastic. It's year after year after year in perpetuity. that the Great Salt Lake will have this water. It's going, as you mentioned, it's going to be running through this Great Salt Lake Water Trust that was established last year by the legislature, and then that will be transferred to the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. So the Sovereign Lands Division within the state will administer that water to shepherd it down to the Great Salt Lake.
This is fascinating, and honestly, not to disparage any other work done by the legislature. I think this is one of the more important things they did that really didn't generate a lot of headlines because it's not controversial. There's nothing really to argue about, and so it just kind of it sort of just happened. But creating this trust and then doing it in a way where the trust, as I understand it, Joel, the trust management is going to be kind of a public-private partnership type thing, right?
It is. So we on the public side, the state set aside $40 million last year to go out and acquire water and do some work for some restoration work around the lake. And the private side is we put it out for a management of those funds. And some of the requirements are the group that won the bid it's a joint effort between National Audubon and Nature Conservancy. And they are required to go out and get matching funds to basically add up, boost up the trust. So it's not just the financial side of this doesn't just fall on the back of the state to fund, but there'll be a lot of private donations. This is the first transaction that the trust will do, and this is the biggest single water donation to the lake, hands down. And this will be the largest transaction the trust has done, first transaction the trust has done. But it's a huge transaction.
Gigantic.
It's a huge donation. It's fantastic. And it's a really great way to kick this thing off.
And what I like about this, so as I understand it from the press release from your department earlier today, this is water that water shares the church owned that have been traditionally used for agricultural land, and they were able to free them up and make this donation, as you said, in perpetuity, meaning it's a permanent thing.
Yep.
And you said, so I like the idea that this could sort of open the. I'm not using this analogy on purpose, but it fits, I guess, the floodgates, right? This sets quite an example, I think.
It does. Culturally and in our society here in Utah, the church plays such an important role, and they're setting the example. They're leading out, and they're saying, we can do it, and this is something that others can do. Other organizations, other groups that have water shares they're not using. Not everything has to be a donation in perpetuity.
Sure.
The Great Salt Lake needs all the water it can get. So even something that's a short-term lease, a short-term arrangement, is acceptable. And we will take any wet water,
sure,
any water that we can get, Great Salt Lake needs. Even in a year like this where we're talking enormous runoff is going to come. As you eloquently said at the beginning, 1 year doesn't get us out of this drought.
Sure. I'm stealing that from the governor.
Yeah. Well, the governor's spot on there. Any water we can get this year or whenever, we'll take it.
Sure.
There's a long-term need. I mean, it's taken us 20 plus years of drought to get in the situation that we find ourselves in, and it's not going to be 1 or even 2 years
sure,
to get us out. It's going to take us a long time. And culturally, and this is where I think that the church is leading out, culturally, we've got to change our mindset to where we're mindful, we're conscientious of the water that we're using.
Sure.
And saying, okay, I think we as a people, if we say, okay, the only time anyone ever walks on my grass is when I mow it, should we be putting grass here?
Yeah.
Right? We need to kind of rethink about how we're using water. 65% of the water that we use in the city is outdoor water use.
Wow.
Can we reduce that a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. In agriculture, can we become more efficient? Absolutely. The state did this ag optimization program. We've used it heavily in northern Utah. That's where a lot of this irrigation occurs.
Sure.
$200 million, Jason, was put into that program this year to help us become more efficient. So those kind of things all add up to get more water down into our rivers, to our lakes, to our Great Salt Lake.
And that'll go directly to helping, farmers adopt new technology, right? The more efficient watering technology and things that, honestly, I don't know. I know very few people running a family farm these days who have the 10, 20 grand sitting around that it would take to update some of the systems they're using for watering. So that helps to offset
hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. On some of these bigger systems,
sure,
it is hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment that's required.
It's
expensive.
For me, Joel, and I don't mean to put you in an unfair situation asking you to weigh in or agree with me, but I'll just let you know I find it frustrating sometimes because as we've talked about this, everyone's got this easy solution, and hats off to the Salt Lake Tribune. I love this. It kind of didn't get noticed, but everyone's saying, well, let's just stop growing alfalfa. And I'm here in Cache Valley thinking, well, that's going to be a lot easier said than done, plus a lot of pain. And the Salt Lake Tribune comes out with this article that says, well, actually, in a desert, that might be the thing you want to be growing. And I think that's a good reminder to us that we've got to, we have to kind of move somewhat thoughtfully and slowly through this, right?
Oh, without question. There is no one single silver bullet, and getting rid of alfalfa is not the answer because, there are times when alfalfa is what makes sense.
Sure, 15-foot deep taproots, right?
They do, right? I mean, alfalfa can weather a drought. You can go and if you don't have the water, you can just get one or two cuttings and not take your third or fourth. I mean, it's a very flexible crop. And I think ultimately what we're talking about is again, being mindful about if we are growing alfalfa, let's try to do it as efficiently as possible.
Sure.
If we're growing corn or wheat, all of these crops take significant amount of water. And it's true, some do take less. Alfalfa is a big water user. But just wholesale, I don't agree at all with wholesale just saying no more alfalfa. That's not the right approach. I think that all that does is discourage any other sort of conservation that might actually make a difference. And I think we need to be aware of that and do what we can to support these optimization efforts in within our agriculture community.
Well, that's what I loved about. In fact, in the statement this morning. From Utah DNR, a quote from Bishop W. Christopher Waddell, first counselor with the church, and he said, the Great Salt Lake and the ecosystem it depends on are so important, and the church wants to be part of the solution. And I thought that was great. Exactly. That this wasn't an easy thing, I'm sure, to do. 5,700 water shares could be sold for a lot of money, right?
Oh, millions and millions of dollars, absolutely.
Sure. It's
a huge donation.
It's a huge donation. And again, the precedent that it sets and hopefully the trend that it sets. And that leads us, Joel, to the I guess the final part of our conversation here. How do people get involved in this? If someone wants to even temporarily reserve some of their water shares to raise water levels in the Great Salt Lake and protect the ecosystem, the bird refuge, whatever it might be, there's so many reasons people in northern Utah have paid so much attention to this. How do they go about it? What's the general working plan for this?
Well, so there's several different ways. Again, the Water Trust is just getting going. That's a great way. They will have the ability to accept donations of both water or financial donations. Sure. I think that just for the average person, someone that doesn't have a bunch of water shares or, a farm or something that they have water they're not using, some water rights they're not using, I think it's important that we as citizens, that we understand what is the zoning, what are the ordinances in my city associated with new development, associated with the land use ordinances on the size of my lot, right? Lot sizes, the amount of grass that I can have. How are we doing those types of things? Becoming involved, knowing, investing in a smart timer for your sprinkler system. I mean, little things, trying to reduce a little bit the amount of water that you're using in your home. Those kind of little things are actions that just normal people can take that will make a difference because they add up in the big picture to add up to a lot of water and make a big difference. Now, if someone does have some water or some money that they would like to donate, they can go on, it's greatsaltlake.utah.gov, and there'll be a link there to the Water Trust where they can click, and that Water Trust will allow them to make a donation to help support that public-private partnership to the trust to directly support Great Salt Lake.
Very nice. This is, for listeners, I've linked to a lot of the DNR resources on this on our Facebook page and some great stuff from the Audubon Society and more. If you'd like to read more about it. And I'd just like to echo what Joel said there. With this donation from the LDS Church of 5,700 water shares, nearly 20,000 acre feet of. To put this in perspective, there is a reservoir in the greater Salt Lake area, Little Dell they call it, that feeds most of their water needs. That's basically what was just donated here. As what will be constant inflow to the Bear River region and the Great Salt Lake. And that's huge. And as Joel has said, we can then all, each individually, take less out of that in any way we can. Every little bit will help. And Joel, I have to say this as well in parting. We can keep it between us, but I was excited to see your appointment by the governor. But the slow and quiet Northern Utah takeover of the mechanisms of government in this state continues. Craig Butter's there. We've got most of the governor's staff, I think, at least Aggies, if not from Northern Utah originally. We'll just keep it going quietly.
We'll just keep that slow takeover going. You know, the governor himself is an Aggie, and so am I.
That's right.
And love Northern Utah and all things Aggies. So, and let me just say, go Aggies. We got a big game tomorrow.
That's right.
So.
Fingers crossed for that one. Fingers crossed. And if they pull it off again on Saturday, Joel, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the show. And I know this is a complex topic to discuss and kind of lay out, but I appreciate you doing that for us in a way that leaves listeners here with a better understanding of how all this works, what it means, this donation from the church today, and why saving the Great Salt Lake has become such a focus and will remain such a focus for all of us, hopefully. Joel Ferry, Executive Director of the Utah Department of Natural Resources here in Utah, appointed by Governor Herbert last year. Previous to that, served as a state lawmaker, representative in the State House from here in northern Utah, and served on some committees and commissions there that put him in a great position to look out for northern Utah's water as we look at the needs of the rest of the state as well. It's a good time to be tackling all this, to say the least. And Joel, again, appreciate your time today for our listeners.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Pleasure being with you.
Oh, pleasure is ours, and we'll do it again soon. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in as well. We'll be back right after this.
You've heard a lot about the state's wood stove conversion program. However, you may not understand whether or not you qualify as a resident of Box Elder or Cache counties. Don't worry. Let the pros at Chim Chimney help you navigate the program. But don't delay. Sign-ups will be underway soon. Ask Chim Chimney about rebates of up to $3,800 for qualifying conversions from inefficient wood stoves for fireplaces. They sell, service, and install Fireplace Extraordinaire and Lopi. Visit them at chimchimney.com.
We start each new year filled with hope and prosperity for things to come. At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, it's no different. Dr. Daines is so grateful to get to call Cache Valley home and continue to offer his services to the wonderful people that live in our beautiful valley. He wants to help you start your new year off right by improving your hearing, which over the course of time will help improve your quality of life. Give them a call at 435-753-4327 or 753-HERE to schedule an appointment, or you can visit them online at CacheValleyHearing.com.
Our most vulnerable veterans are isolated at hospitals, and during their greatest time of need, their loved ones can have little or no contact with them. Imagine having to shelter in place forever. Learn how you can help at healvets.org. Help Heal Veterans, with the support of citizens like you, is making things better together. Learn more at healvets.org. This message is furnished by Help Heal Veterans, a not-for-profit organization.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Thanks again to Executive Director of Utah's Department of Natural Resources, Joel Ferry. And if the name sounds familiar, it's because, yes, he was for a long time a state lawmaker from here in northern Utah, appointed to the ED position there by Governor Cox last year. And I'm excited he's there because having his perspective, being from northern Utah, representative of northern Utah for years, one of my concerns through all this is that we'll get forgotten. These noble efforts that will take place are noble and should happen. Saving the Great Salt Lake, it can't be overstated how big of a deal it would be if we lost the lake and what it would do to our ecology throughout the state. Even St. George would be affected by this. They'd be affected last, but they would be affected by this if the Great Salt Lake shrinks too much. And so this is a huge deal. The ecology in northern Utah would not survive at all. I mean, it would change so much. Our quality of life would evaporate, and we'd all be moving. So, I mean, it is a big deal, and the clock is ticking, and I'm glad these efforts are underway. And even as the Speaker of the House once said, we're probably acting too late, which means that we need to act aggressively but thoughtfully. I would add to that, because there are unintended consequences, too, that can pop up. One example, quick, I didn't bring this up with Joel for the sake of time, but it's an interesting thing playing out in the news or in the legislative session. Years ago, something everyone supported. This was an effort by a conservative Republican lawmaker to encourage water reuse in various industries and in various locales, sometimes citywide. And it's a great idea. It was basically saying, the water you use at a car wash or some industry where water is used to clean, floors or something like that, it can actually be run through a capturing system, filtered and reused. And that way, it doesn't just go down the drain and create more resources. And that's great in southern Utah, in a desert where your aquifers are also drying up already. You're going to have to start looking at things like water reclamation in general. But what they found in northern Utah is that it was actually contributing to the decline of the Great Salt Lake because less water was getting into the ground in general. So that's what I mean by unintended consequences. We need to move slow as possible and as quick as possible at the same time, and just do it thoughtfully. And I think this trust is an amazing way to do it. So big news again today, the LDS Church donating 5,700 water shares, roughly 20,000 acre feet. And remember, every acre foot is more than 300,000 gallons of water. So we're basically talking about
a football field, right? And then you fill it up about a foot or 1 foot deep. Foot deep of water.
That's what. Yeah, Joel Ferry said if you took a football field, the sidelines and all, as I understand it, and filled about a foot of water deep, that's about the amount of water we're talking about. That's a small reservoir of water. That's huge, and that will be now flowing to the Great Salt Lake permanently due to this donation today. So it's a big deal. If you would like to help, Joel mentioned this. We didn't talk about the website, though. The Watershed Enhancement Trust is what it's called. It was created by the legislature last year in 2022, and it's been operating since. And the goal of this is people can donate money. You can donate water shares directly, but you can donate money, even time, to helping them out. It's a public-private partnership, privately managed, but backed by the state government. And the Nature Conservancy and the Audubon Society are co-managing this trust. And the goal of the trust is the legislature put in $40 million. And the goal is they'll use that to maybe double their impact, if not triple, seeking donations from wealthy philanthropists, from the general public who may want to put $20 in here, $20 in there, and then take all that money and buy up water shares that are sitting dormant for the most part, but are owned and worth a lot of money. That's why people are sitting on them, even if they're not using them. They buy them up, and then they just sit on them for the Great Salt Lake, so that they can guarantee that water ends up in the lake after benefiting the Bear River region and everything else first. That is up and running, and you can check it out and learn more about what Joel and I just discussed at the website GSL, Great Salt Lake, gslwatertrust.org. Thanks again to Joel. Thanks to our listeners. We'll be back right after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:39, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Logan is not the only city looking forward to a new Jack in the Box restaurant coming soon. The popular chain is announcing new restaurants in 9 other locations. Last month, we reported a new Jack in the Box location will be opening along US 8991 across from the Logan River Golf Course. The 2,341 square foot restaurant will occupy an area that will eventually include other fast food and or retail pads. The restaurant will have room to seat 46 occupants inside. Mountain West Commercial Real Estate has revealed that in addition to the Logan chain, the chain is also looking to build new restaurants in other northern Utah locations. Sites include Salt Lake City, Layton, Ogden, Saratoga Springs, South Jordan, Kaysville, Orem, Provo, and Pleasant Grove have been proposed. One man is dead, another still missing after floodwaters poured into a slot canyon in southern Utah. The two are among more than a dozen hikers who were caught in flash floods in the Buckskin Gulch area near the Utah-Arizona border. The Kane County Sheriff's Office said search and rescue teams had hoisted out 11 hikers from 3 groups as storms continue to pelt the region. The area is known for its sandstone features and narrow slot canyons that are beloved by many hikers, but can quickly become dangerous when weather changes. Authorities have not released any of the hikers' names, but said that the deceased was from the Tampa, Florida area. And First Amendment experts say attacks on free speech rights are escalating across the United States. Joe Kahn with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression says censorship is proliferating and putting America's culture of individual freedoms at risk. In Idaho, an art exhibit was censored and teens were told they could not testify in some legislative hearings. In Washington state, a lawmaker proposed a hotline so the government could track offensively biased statements as well as hate crimes. In Florida, bloggers are fighting a bill that would force them to register with the state if they write posts criticizing public officials. And bans on books and drag performances are growing increasingly common nationwide. KBNU News Time is 5:42.
This is David from Roof Rescue. A roof is not something most people think about until they notice a leak on the ceiling. This time of year, fluctuation in temperatures, along with rain, snow, and ice, can do a number on your roof. If you notice these leaks, they won't go away on their own and are oftentimes a sign that the roof has reached the beginning of the end of its life. Call Roof Rescue for a free analysis, diagnosis, and estimate. Let's fix those leaks and keep you dry this winter. Call 435-999-4268 or visit roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, then clearing, much colder, low near 15, sunny mid-30s on Thursday, sunny mid-30s Friday, and a nice day, partly cloudy, around 40 on Saturday. It's been to 43 today. It's 38 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Logan Extermination. They are ready to get your lawn greened up and ready for summer, and they soon will be. Give them a call, 435-752-8450. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
The Cache Valley Cruising Association invites you to the biggest party of the summer. As the legendary Beach Boys take the stage. Tickets are on sale now at Lee's Marketplace and the Cache Valley Cruise-In website. The Beach Boys in Logan to perform their timeless hits like Surfin' USA, California Girl, I wish they all could be California, and Good Vibrations. Their music continues to inspire generations for a night of fun, sun, and great music. Buy tickets now for the Beach Boys.
Let's go surfing now. Everybody's learning how. Come on a safari with me.
The Beach Boys, live in concert at this year's Cache Valley Cruise-In.
If your clothes are taking too long to dry, don't run out and buy a new dryer without first checking the vent. Clothes dryer vents can get clogged with lint, and birds can even build a nest in them. If your clothes are taking too long to dry, simply check the outside of your vent, and if you don't feel a swift amount of air, it's probably clogged. Simply clean the vent, and your dryer should work like new. Or, if your vent is too long or too difficult to clean yourself, then give the Duct Hunter a call at 770-4813.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. A story about this at CashValleyDaily.com, but USU will be awarding, as part of its commencement ceremony coming up, they'll be awarding some honorary doctorate degrees. Some big names on here. Dr. Paul Anthony Jones, who is currently serving as president at Fort Valley State, which is similar to USU, a land-grant university in Georgia. Also receiving honorary doctorates will be Jonathan Bolin, philanthropist and businessman with some KVNU ties way, way, way back in the day. Way back, right? How long back? Man.
Well, when okay. I'm going to date myself.
Uh-oh.
When I started working KVNU part-time, he was the station manager.
Okay.
But shortly after that, he moved off to cable because the family also owned the cable company. So he kind of moved off into that venture.
It was the JWB cable company, and within just a few years, I think he sold that for a nice price tag to Sonic Cable.
Yeah, and then it was Charter.
Yeah, and then Sonic became Charter, and Charter became,
We were all under the roof for a
brief
period
time
of time
at least.
over behind Winco.
Back when it was out there on the corner. Back when I knew KVNU as a red flashing light while I was at the drive-in theater as a kid.
Oh, okay. Well, that would have been... Yeah, now that's when we were at 14th North and Main.
Yeah.
Or just about where, it's kind of where 7-Eleven is and Habit Burger Grill.
I remember that.
It was right in that
you'd turn
area.
Basically where the Burger King is, you'd turn, or was, sorry.
Yeah,
it's not
the
Burger
one that
King
burned
anymore.
down.
Yeah, it burned down, and I think, does Wendy's now sit on that?
No, Wendy's was a little ways
it's
north.
Yeah, that's right. So it would be I don't know what's there now. What's next to 7-Eleven? I can't remember. Anyway, you turn on a road there. There's a little road, and you drive back into the drive-in theater. And if you got bored during the movie, which was usually the second movie that was for your parents, the earlier one was for kids.
The blinky lights.
Yeah, you could turn, and I watched that
lights.
KVNU tower and flashing light there. Anyway, little tangent. USU President Noelle Cockett spoke to these recipients and her statement. Some great quotes from KVNU's Craig Hislop in the story at CashValleyDaily.com. But interestingly enough, also receiving honorary doctorate degrees during the commencement ceremony for USU in a few weeks. Former Utah Representative Mia B. Love. And Gary Stevenson, a local entrepreneur and current member of the Quorum of the 12 in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Love this. A lot of people saw this and went, "Wait, what? Why is USU awarding?" Love actually kind of works at Utah State University now. She's serving as the national outreach director for a center that operates at USU, a center that has been in the headlines before. In fact, they got in a little trouble a few years ago for kind of using USU's logo and letterhead and branding a little too loosely on some of their, because this is ultimately a political center. It's backed with Koch Foundation money, and it's a center that has an agenda. It's not a research center. It's not an educational center. It's a center that is there to promote, a libertarian ideology That is what Love is doing now. She's serving as a national outreach director for that. They've been all about, they want to do like Uber did for ride sharing. They want to do that with flying now, with charter planes and more. That's kind of their latest project that they're working on. So that's why her name popped up. I know a lot of people were confused because she's from Saratoga Springs, served as 4th Congressional District Congresswoman in for a couple of years before losing to Ben McAdams, who then lost to Burgess Owens. But that's why she's popping up. She actually does work with USU's Center for Growth and Opportunity, I think is what they call it. So she will be receiving an honorary doctorate degree from the university in the commencement ceremonies. Cool stuff, and check it out. Full story on this from KVNU's Craig Hislop at CashValleyDaily.com with some photos as well. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Believe it or not, spring is coming. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. We want to offer you a spring deal on washers and dryers. Buy a new washer and get $25 off the dryer. Or choose a scratch and dent dryer to save more money and get $75 off. Don't forget, Daryl's offers an exclusive 2-year warranty on all scratch and dent appliances. Why pay full price when you can save at Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road?
See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Have you pulled your spring sheets out of storage, and do they smell stale and need freshening up? How about your blankets and your quilts? Are things dingy from winter use? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It takes no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, and it costs a lot less than the dry cleaners, and free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, too. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
It's time to vote in the Best of Northern Utah contest.
Best of Northern Utah.
Reward your favorite businesses in Northern Utah by casting your vote at bestofnorthernutah.com. You can vote once per day, every day through March 29th.
Best of Northern Utah.
This is the contest every business hopes to win. So vote now and let your voice be heard. Go to bestofnorthernutah.com and vote now.
Best of Northern Utah.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Utah State Treasurer Marlo Oaks catching some flack for some comments of his over last weekend. That video of which just made its way into the news cycle today. ESG is the... we've seen a string of... And I've gotten to where I roll at them every time. We've seen a string of 3-letter acronym boogeymen. CRT, DEI, SEL... Now it's ESG. And what is ESG? Quick explanation. Some credit ratings companies have started using environmental, social, and I forget what the G stands for, actually. Something along those lines. Basically, they're saying when they rate businesses or in states or, any big entity, some of them are going to start factoring some of this stuff in. What's their carbon footprint? Are they doing things to make things socially better in their area? Or are they just operating and are they just pure extraction? Are they putting something back into the community? It might be a smart idea. It might be a fad that goes away pretty soon. One thing I can tell you, it's not evil. But Utah Treasurer Marlo Oaks at a Salt Lake County Republican event on Saturday said he was making it his goal, he used the word crusade, which is also a poor word choice. He said, as Utah State Treasurer, which that alone should raise some eyebrows, because this is the treasurer. Yeah, there's an argument to be made. The treasurer should not be a political office. That should be an appointed office. I actually feel the same way about the attorney general. It should not be politicized through the election process. Not that completely insulates you from abuse or wacky people assuming the role, as is the case here. It does far more so, in my opinion. And those are two jobs, treasurer of a state and attorney general of a state, where you have a lot of power. And if you just don't like somebody, you can easily abuse that power. And so I think we should be very careful with politicizing those offices. You might like it when the office is held by somebody who you agree with politically, but then you are absolutely going to hate it when someone holds the office that you don't agree with politically and they have the same amount of power. So I think being able to appoint people that are almost apolitical, or as apolitical as you can find, which you'll never find through an election process. Yeah. So I think that's how we got here. Either way, Governor Cox feeling some pressure to have some chats with the Utah State Treasurer, who he appointed. This man hasn't been elected to the position right now. He was appointed to fill a vacancy, and he said over the weekend that he was making it his personal crusade to fight ratings agencies, which no state can do this. They're going to do what they want. They're private companies. He's going to fight them all and make them stop using ESG factors in their ratings algorithms because he said they're Satan's plan. And then he went on a bit of a wacky rant, and that made national headlines. And so now the governor feeling some heat. I doubt he's going to ask the treasurer to step down, but I guarantee they're going to have some conversations about what a treasurer's job is, and this is not it, by the way, what he's saying he's going to do. And so that's the big story of the day. I think this is actually a bigger story because not that it doesn't deserve to have the legs that it has, the longevity that it's had as a news item alone, but I'm surprised by that, because usually even a story that got this big and deserved to get this big has come and gone by now, because this was a while ago. Well, I mean, it was 2018, and that's longer than most Americans' average news memory span these days. But ESPN will actually be airing a documentary later this month telling the story of the murder of University of Utah student athlete Lauren McCluskey. McCluskey's murder has led to a near complete cleaning house at the University of Utah, from the president's office down to the chief of the police, and some changes in how the University of Utah police work in general, who they report to, and more. It also raised national attention on how law enforcement is handling reports of stalking and sexual assault and harassment especially from young women, and whether they're taking them seriously or not. It also triggered a nationwide domino effect of other universities, including Utah State University, feeling some heat for their own failures that suddenly got a lot of attention due to this story. It was a huge deal. It was in October of 2018, and the way the story is always told that I think really sums it up, McCluskey did everything that you're told you're supposed to do. If someone's stalking you, harassing you, threatening you, if you've been a victim of sexual assault and this person is still, contacting you, she did everything you were supposed to do. Everything law enforcement will tell people you should do, and it still failed. No one took her seriously, and she was murdered by the man she was trying to protect herself from by doing, again, everything she was supposed to do when it came to law enforcement. It is an absolute travesty of justice, and her family not only have they won lawsuits, but they have not let this go. And they've turned this into a movement of sorts, which is a great thing. But a trailer dropped today from ESPN, which says this documentary will include campus surveillance footage, interviews with the McCluskey family, and even Roland, the murderer himself, and clips that they found from police interviews and unreported audio from conversations with police that were recorded by McCluskey herself and the family. The Salt Lake Tribune reporters apparently involved in this, as well as Deseret News reporters, too, supplying information and footage to ESPN. That will premiere 2 weeks from this Friday, so keep an eye out for it. A new documentary on Lauren McCluskey's murder at the University of Utah coming from ESPN soon. That's our show for today.